Warning: the following video contains my opinions and personal biases regarding the LEGO Dimensions franchise. I had to make a lot of cuts due to me repeating the same points over and over again, so I'm sorry if the cuts are awkward. Hey, this is Metagross Freak with LEGO Dimensions, Marceline the Vampire Queen, and Lunatic Amp. I've reviewed a couple other LEGO Dimensions packs in the past, and they haven't really done that well, but I'm hoping to monopolize on both the popularity of Adventure Time and to use my title of why I think LEGO Dimensions failed. Before I get into that, Lunatic Amp, as you can see, is kind of a rideable weapon that builds into Shadow Scorpion, which is a land vehicle, and then Heavy Metal Monster, which is kind of like a mech suit. LEGO Dimensions was a very ambitious idea, and honestly I think what it set out to do, it did very well. The main reason, by the way, I bought this, and I'm doing this video now, is because pretty much every Target I've been to has these for half price now. So that was the big downfall, in my opinion, of LEGO Dimensions, is the price. You know, this is a Lego set, and they wanted me to pay $12, I'm getting a minifig and like a buildable, which some characters, like The Simpsons, had buildables that made sense. You know, they had like Homer's car and his TV. Ones like the Adventure Time one, the other Adventure Time ones, had like, you know, a buildable BMO and, you know, a Jake the Dog car. But others, like the Marceline one, just had kind of a random vehicle or a random accessory. Another problem, I think, was that the instructions never really were instructions. If we look in the book, you know, it shows how to make the minifig, which is, it's okay. But then, and it just has advertisements for the other things. It doesn't actually, and it shows our pieces and some advertisement for other sets, but it doesn't actually show us instructions for building the models, which is unfortunate because if you didn't have the game, if you wanted to build the things, you had to have the game or look them online. And a lot of younger kids weren't going to look them up online because they didn't have the money for it. They didn't have the computer access. And that led to another problem, was a lot of, it was a cool idea, but it had some issues. Obviously, this isn't the first Toys to Life game. The first, I guess, official Toys to Life game is UB Funkies, which I will do a video on someday, because I still have a good number of them. I used to have like 40 of them. But the big falling point was that these were just too expensive. You know, Skylanders has the little figures, and you get a character that can like be upgraded and, you know, built up in game, and it makes the time you're spending in the game worth it. Meanwhile, in LEGO Dimensions, the characters themselves can't be upgraded. The vehicles and stuff can, but, you know, if I put Marceline on the board, she is still Marceline, and I can play 20 hours with her or 20 minutes with her, and she'll still be Marceline. Meanwhile, you know, her Lunatic Amp, the accessory that I'm going to be building in a moment, I can use it, you know, one time or 50 times, doesn't matter, as long as I have enough studs. I can upgrade it whenever I want into its latter forms. And so that really was kind of an issue. That was an issue with part of the design, was that, you know, if I was getting just a minifig and a little build, I would expect it to be maybe at most $5. Now, as is, you know, this set came out, I think, like a year or two ago, and I paid $6. And while I'm happy to have Marceline finally, it isn't really, I don't know, they weren't as exciting as they could have been. I like this. Anyway, so I have to look up the instructions now while I talk. The problem with LEGO Dimensions was that You know, you expect when you open up a box of Legos to look at the instructions, build a thing, and then play with the thing. Meanwhile, this, if you had the video game, you could still build the thing, but you could only build it in its base form. If you wanted to build the other models, you had to have, you had to unlock them in game, which would cost the in-game currency. And this was fine. I mean, but different ones had different purposes. You know, like for example, with Homer's car, it started off as a car, which was cool. You know, it's very iconic, the Simpsons car. But then one of the upgrades is a submarine, which is cool because, you know, if you don't have a water vehicle, you now can have a water vehicle. But if you don't have, you know, or if you have plenty of water vehicles, well, then suddenly, you know, now you don't have a car. I mean, true, there was a ton of every type of thing. So, you know, if you needed a car, there was like 20 different cars. But the problem is that there wasn't enough variety of vehicles, for example. You know, we had a ton of cars and other land vehicles. Then we had, you know, a handful of water vehicles, which had limited usage. And then we had some flying vehicles. And then we also had, like, mech suits, which were not super common, but, you know, the mech suits were kind of cool because they were a very combat-focused vehicle. More noticeable ones being, notable ones being like Emmett's mech suit. You know, the Red Samurai mech. But the problem is that just it got really repetitive. You know, for example, if I got one character with a boat, why would I need to buy another character with a boat? I already have the one. Or, you know, if I already have one character with a plane, why would I buy another character with a plane? Or some characters didn't even make sense, like Superman. The Superman set, Superman could already fly, yet for some reason his set came with a jet. It was weird. So I think from a marketing idea, it didn't really make as much sense like this. But as a game, it was a brilliant idea. You know, the Toys to Life games have been fairly popular. We see that with both Disney Infinity and Skylanders. The big problem was that this was just, like I said before, this is just too expensive. I only ended up buying maybe about a handful of these because it was too costly. I mean, even $6 for just a little build and a minifig is kind of pricey. Now, LEGO Dimensions, which, similar to LEGO, you know, all LEGO games, has the humor, has the unique storytelling of LEGO games. The only downside, really, was that basically everything was DLC. Literally, you could spend, you know, over $200 on these little sets, and it was just the DLC, because the base game only came with basically the story and a little bit of exploration for post-game. That was a big flaw, in my opinion. You know, could you imagine that? If, you know, the main game, if you bought a game, and the main game itself only took you, say, like 10 hours, and then the other, like, 300 whatever hours of the game you had to buy, you had to go purchase. That's like unheard of even today. I don't know. People don't mind paying for DLC, but only when they feel like they're, you know, getting a good deal for it. This is a weird build. I like it, but it's a weird build. So, you know, I mean, and LEGO Dimensions was able to do a lot. They have, you know, Adventure Time, they have DC Comics, they have, you know, you have Ghostbusters, and both old Ghostbusters and new Ghostbusters. They have Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Sonic the Hedgehog. It was a lot of cool stuff. Oh, there we go. I guess that's the end of the build. There, let me just show off the build. So, of course, we already saw the Marceline. Here's the Lunatic amp. You can see we've got these we've got these little speakers. I'm going to tilt those to the sides more. We got the big speakers, which are kind of cool. We've got like little spider legs. It's a big bulky thing. I don't know, it's kind of cool. It's got little flames, and it's very demonic. And of course, I have some extra pieces. But a big problem with LEGO Dimensions was that, yeah, it had a lot of IPs. But and LEGO always has a monopoly on tons of IPs, but it didn't do anything with them. They had some stories. They had, like, for example, the Portal story was really cool. It wasn't canon to the universe of Portal 2, but it was cool. Doctor Who had its own world, and it was kind of cool, but again, it wasn't really canon. If you're a geek and you grew up with LEGO and you grew up with LEGO games, yeah, this is going to be awesome. It's also really expensive. For example, the Portal pack had the turret, and it had the companion cube, and Chell, and that was like $30, which is ridiculous. For someone who doesn't own the game, it was ridiculous. If you own the game, it's still very pricey, but at least you got a story out of it. There we go. There we go. That's all my LEGO Dimension stuff, right there. All my LEGO Dimension stuff. It was good. It was good for world building and establishing that whole LEGO multiverse that the LEGO movie gave us, but it didn't. I don't know. As a LEGO game, it was good, but the fact that all of this was DLC and you had to pay for each piece of it was dumb. I don't know. It's frustrating, especially because some of these characters were like, for example, Benny is a cool character, and his spaceship is a cool flying vehicle. But for example, if I had Benny and a flying vehicle versus, say, Princess Unikitty and her flying vehicle, that really doesn't change the gameplay all that much. I mean, yeah, Benny can do the hacking minigame, but so can the Doctor. He can do the hacking minigame too. And so can the Cybermen. The Cybermen can also do the hacking game. So it made it so that you basically only had to buy one of each of the types of things. We get like one ground vehicle, one flying vehicle, one water vehicle, like one gadget, like one rideable weapon, that kind of thing, for you to enjoy the whole game. And that I don't know. It was a cool idea in concept, but execution-wise didn't work as well. And it would have worked better if the prices were lower. If, for example, Marceline and the Lunatic Amp were supposed to be sold for $12, and no one bought them for like a year or two. I bought them now because they're on sale for $6, which is still expensive for a minifig in a small build, but it's more reasonable, and it'll probably go down to like $4 or $3 by the time they're finally taken off shelves. I'm remembering back all the way to UB Funkies. Each character unlocked a minigame, and the that minigame was exclusive to that character. Thank you all for watching. I've been Metagross Freak. Thanks for listening to me rant. Yeah. Bye.